Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with a professional scavenger called a zone tripper roaming the American wasteland. Filmed in the beautiful Morocco, the Nomad comes across the scattered remains of a robot buried in the sand and doesn't recognize the model. He proceeds to unearth it and makes his way to the nearest town, which, like everywhere, is heavily overpopulated and lacking the basic resources. Arriving at a small pawn shop to offload his bag of junk, the zoner asks for the owner, but a soldier newly arrived home, Moses, says that the little man's busy. His scavenger friend Shades inspects the contents of the haul and, liking what he sees, Mo personally pays for it. The offer periodically increases until the crazy-eyed man's pleased with the deal, then proceeds to leave and continue the lonely cycle. Since he already has a mechanical hand of his own, Mo sells the robots to the owner Alvy and takes the rest of the parts to his girlfriend's apartment. While making their way through the crowded street, Shades talks about moving to New York for the mountains of scrap, but Mo says the air's still too toxic there for anyone to survive. They catch a water taxi the rest of the way across a polluted river, with their driver being the late great Lemmy from Motorhead. It's been months since Mo's been home, and Shades says the apartment building's now overrun by addicts after one of them drove a truck through the security gates. Upstairs, hard Mo's artist girlfriend Jill gets an entry request at her front door, but when she checks on it, nobody's there. It's become a regular occurrence, so she contacts the landlord Vernon, who hasn't been able to track down who's doing it, but tells her that he's on the case. When Mo and Shades make it to Jill's apartment, she's reluctant to let them inside after Mo's been gone for so long, but at least their rad levels check out. Mo delivers the robot parts to Jill as a peace offering for leaving, which she says the skull will make a beautiful centerpiece to her latest sculpture. The couple make up and take a shower together before moving to the bedroom so that Mo's hand doesn't rust. We get some explanation to the ding-dong ditching when a neighbor named Lincoln is shown spying on them through the window. He's a perverted weirdo taking photos of Jill with his camera and seems to have made a scented wallpaper out of stolen women's shoes. Simultaneously, Alvy gets intrigued by the hand and researches it to learn that it was a military robot code named Mark 13 after the biblical quote. The database implies that the machine was built for human eradication but was susceptible to water, which is quite the foreshadowing oversight. We're shown that it isn't completely deactivated as Jill wakes up in the middle of the night and it watches her watching Wasteland TV. She gets working on her latest art project that's just a heap of junk with the flag painted head of the Mark 13 shoved in the center. The couple argue about whether the government should implement a sterilization plan and the morality of having children in such an overpopulated world. Just then, Mo gets a video call from Alvy telling him that he needs to discuss in person how the robot can make them both wealthy. Before leaving the apartment, he reads the Bible verse of Mark 13, which suggests that the robot was designed to address the starvation problem. With that horrifying thought, he leaves Jill asleep without any note and makes his way to Alvy's shop, expecting to be back before she wakes up. Like always, Lincoln watches Jill sleeping and calls her, pretending to be her boyfriend and talking about taking her down the Hershey Highway. Disgusted, she hangs up and returns to bed while the Mark 13 proceeds to rebuild itself by utilizing any piece of trash that it can find around the apartment. The hand also comes alive in Alvy's workshop, and when Mo arrives, he finds his little friend already dead, having been injected with a chemical weapon. He tries to call Jill, but she's completely out of it, having taken cigarettes, and the self-repairing Mark proceeds to destroy the phone. Mo then calls Shades, but he's also taken a large dose of a good time and receives the order to check on Jill, but then just passes out. As the boyfriend rushes back to the apartment, the killer robot doesn't follow its programming and just stands over a sleeping Jill. When she wakes up, it finally does something, but isn't the most mobile machine and must retreat into a whirlwind of bedsheets. With the power out and Jill being hunted around her apartment, a creepin' Lincoln sees the robot on his camera and does the dumbest thing of his life. Seeing this as a good moment to sweep Jill off her feet, the door just locks the old butterball inside the house of horrors as well. He turns out to be the same person who installed her security system, which is when the creeping began, but he's hurt when Jill doesn't recognize him. She demands that he opens the door, but I don't know if Link forgot about the killer robot or he just overestimates his abilities as a fighter. He just takes the blowtorch from Jill and tries to act like some kind of hero while piss-farting around not unlocking the damn doors. When he starts to get creepy talking about Moses never being around, he takes a big old lick of her face, but Jill's much more patient than most. Right before unlocking the doors, he opens the blinds for a better view from his own apartment, but is immediately killed by the Mark 13. It's a rather gory death exacerbated by the red lighting. Then Mark proceeds to go for Jill, but it takes this thing forever to get around. She corners herself in the kitchen with a bread knife, but when realizing the robot uses infrared, Jill hides in the fridge and completely disappears. Mark begins trashing the apartment until eventually finding Jill, but isn't able to reach her as either the fridge is very deep or he has some tiny little T-Rex arms. Just then Shades shows up, having scraped himself up off the floor, and distracts Mark enough for Jill to reach her circular saw. The artist buries it into the robot's chassis, but it swipes her to the ground while breaking a gas bottle and going haywire. Jill seizes the moment to try to get away, but one of the arms can suddenly do something and drags her back into the kitchen. She reaches out and grabs a tin of spray paint to cover the lens, which luckily makes the robot let go of anything it's holding. Once at a safe distance, she tosses her burning pack of cigarettes at the gas bottle, causing the apartment to explode and hopefully going cold turkey. Mo has arrived back and been banging on the door for minutes, along with Shades, Vernon and the building's chief, who are all trying to get in. When Jill tries to leave, Moses shouts to get down as they all proceed to fill the still functioning robot with as much lead as they can. The thing goes flying backwards out a window and Mo attempts to calm Jill down, but she's pissed that he left her alone once again. They look out over the city, assuming that Mark's remains plummeted onto some unfortunate person, and conclude it was created by their own government as a form of population control. Jill describes it as the final solution when she's suddenly dragged out of the window as the Mark 13 hangs onto the side of the building. Hanging from a power line, the robot cuts it, sending Jill crashing through the apartment below's window and looking like she's dead by the way they filmed this. She isn't though, and everybody rushes over to make sure she's okay except for Moses, who they didn't realize was still battling with the robot. It climbs through the window, so Mo fires his shotgun into its skull but doesn't notice that Mark just injected him with the same toxin that killed Alvy. Assuming that he's victorious, Moses collapses and begins to lose consciousness as Mark gets up and hacks into Jill's computer to absorb more power. Unable to fight back anymore and beginning to hallucinate, Mo pulls out his knife and takes his own life to prevent the machine from having the satisfaction. The boys try to prevent Jill from returning to her apartment for her own safety, so she literally has to slug Vernon in the head with a bat to make him move. As they enter the room, Mark closes the door on Chief and then on the second attempt cuts him clean in half, trapping Shades outside. Chief's gun also goes off, hitting Vernon in the forehead, whose corpse gets dragged away by Mark for some unexplained hacking to pieces. Shades cowers up with Chief's lower half while Jill finds Moses, but it's too late and he's already been dead for a few minutes. His robotic hand, however, is under the control of Mark, so Jill reverses the feed to try communicate to the droid that they aren't its enemy. A voice recording of Mo's final moments has him reveal the fault in the unit being that of water, but it's said in a vague way about rain. Not getting through to the machine, Jill uses her bat to lure it into the bathroom, where she's knocked through the glass shower door and trapped inside. Unable to reach the tap, Jill holds Mark off with her baseball bat just long enough for Shades to finally grow some balls. He leaps through the retracting doors of death and picks up Chief's hand cannon to line the robot's head up, but he's still a bit lit, so it takes a few seconds. Pulling the trigger, he gives Jill enough room to turn on the shower, and they weren't kidding when they said water's this thing's weakness as it violently explodes. Jill gives it a few what-fors with the baseball bat for good measure, but there's nothing for them to celebrate as this was just the beginning. Iggy Pop announces on the radio, which is horrifying enough, that the Mark 13 has just been approved by the government for mass production. He says that this will open 800 new jobs that I'm sure will solve the 20 billion unemployed homeless, and we follow the zone tripper back into the wasteland. And the movie ends.